We came to McBIC in '59 because of a change in establishing a new Sunday school class. That was something new then, by male and female in one class. They took the 5 newest married couples and started this class.
My introduction to McBIC was 1973 when we arrived at the parsonage on Pleasant View Drive with the family. We were a pastoral family, and I was immediately impressed with the friendliness of the ones from the church who came to meet us and help us to move in.
Started coming here as a baby, and as a child and teenager, my grandfather was a pastor here. I had a lot of uncles and aunts and cousins that came, so coming to church was just a time to meet them.
People that served us our first meal when we got here was Calvin and Zena Thompson. And I remember they had corn on the cob. Oh, that tasted so good.
My husband was ill and, of course, passed away within a number of months after we arrived at McBIC. And once again, the congregation stepped up. They were just so caring and prayed for us and helped us in every way possible.
Well, I have a lot of memories over my about 38 years at McBIC, and during that time have seen a lot of changes.
Sometimes change is hard to adjust to, but usually it turns out to be good. And I think that that's how it has been for our church.
I guess there were 6 or 7 family names. Once you got the names down, you could pretty much know who was related to each other.
We were not related to anyone in the church, and I think there were a few other couples, maybe 6 couples, but everyone else in the congregation was related.
The music is different. The instruments were different. I think when we came here, we had a piano and an organ, and the presentation was different. We sang from hymn books, and even though the method has changed, the message is still the same. And
he was quite different, because he was all wound up, with the Lord, and which was right. And I think a number of us really appreciated him in the earlier church.
He began to really preach and teach on intimacy with Christ, and many of us began to have a whole different perspective on what it meant to be a follower of Christ, and much less emphasis on what I do and don't do, and a whole lot more on the heart and falling in love with Jesus.
People realized that this was the Lord's work and the Lord's church, and not necessarily mine. And so we had to give up control of how I wanted things to be done.
And I distinctly remember that in those days, it was a very difficult time in the life of our church, where we were experiencing a lot of conflict as we were seeking to lead the church in some new directions and become more a community church.
So, there has been things came up in the church that I didn't care about. But I always thought, this is where God has led me. If I leave, I'll backslide. But, the problems all slid by, and I'm still up there. I'm still up there worshiping in that church, and I love it.
And so when Lane and I were hired, it was not a particularly happy time at McBIC. And my office happened to be very close to the cemetery. And I remember many days walking over in the cemetery and praying and saying, "Dear God, what have I gotten myself into?" It's good now to be able to look back on those difficult days and all the years in between, and to see how God has moved in the life of our congregation.
Whatever is coming in the future, that we will stand together and stand strong, and just allow the Lord to move us forward in our walk with Him.
Don't be afraid to get involved. So if you are asked to help, don't use the 2-letter word, use the 3-letter word. No, yes, I will help.
I would tell them, you read your Bible and you follow the Lord. That's the only salvation you have in this world anymore. God will come any day and they should prepare themselves to meet him.
Well, and I feel that some of the changes that have come were very dramatic for us, but I'm glad that we hung in there because we see the results of the way God has brought our church into unity and friendliness, and I really feel that we show a lot of love when new people come. And within our own congregation, we show love one to another.